this is Sugar for House of Cyanide. I believe this is episode number 6 for Psychic School. And we're talking about protecting yourself during possession, or what you can do to protect yourself against possession, if you will. So, this is where circles, some of the more trappings of witchcraft and things of that nature come in, which I know a lot of people who work in the psychic industry don't necessarily practice the craft, and that's okay. But this is where practicing the craft can protect and help you. So, salt, sage, red brick powder, cold iron, and what cold iron is hematite's cold iron, but cold iron is something that has enough iron ore in it that when you touch it, it is cold to the touch. And I don't know if you've ever picked up genuine hematite, because there's a lot of fake hematite out there. But when you pick up genuine hematite, it's cold when you touch it. It doesn't retain heat. It's cold. So cold iron is a neutralizer. It's kind of why the Fae don't like iron, because iron is a neutralizer. So at this point, you can basically do protection spells or rituals around your home, which will protect anything from entering your home that you do not want it to. And then if you're doing possession of any kind for positive reasons, you want to put up a protective circle. Okay? Now, I do a lot of house clearings. I do a lot of kind of like medium work, and I deal with what I call the big nasties. And so if you've got a house that has like a poltergeist or anything like that, that's the house is haunted for negative reasons, which 9 times out of 10, if a house is haunted, usually it's happy, positive spirits that are protecting you, and you don't even realize it. But if a house is haunted and it's a negative entity, I go in and I clear out the entity, and I either pass it on, so I help it to move on to like heaven or the next realm or whatever, so that its soul can be recycled back into the system and it can continue to grow instead of being stuck here. Or I will disperse its energy, which is basically like spirit murder. Well, not necessarily spirit murder, but spirit killing. And I only do that as a last resort if it refuses to move on and it's a harm to other people. So when I do that, that's when I break out the sage, the salt, and the cold iron, and I will put up a circle, and then I will channel and speak to the spirit and find out its story and what it wants. Okay? Usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, when you're dealing with a negative haunting, you're actually dealing with a thought form. Most people are psychic and don't realize it. I would say 99% of the population has some sort of latent psychic ability. A thought form is energy that is put off by you, that you have been doing it for so long that it manifests into reality and becomes sentient. So usually thought forms are put off by people who are severely depressed, severely stressed, and their brain is kind of on this hamster wheel, this cycle of I'm horrible, blah, 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 blah. And a thought form becomes born from that. And it will start to feed off of you and those around you, and will create more situations to upset you and those around you so that it can feed off of you. And this is basically what most poltergeists are. Okay? The more upset you are, the more it feeds off of you. The more it feeds off of you, the more upset you become. Blah, 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 blah. It becomes a cycle. And so, usually for thought forms, since it was never originally a soul entity, I just disperse them. Because there is no good in them. They are a mindless entity, and while they're sentient, their only thought process is to feed, like a vampire, basically. And it has no other purpose, no other, it's no other use, nothing. It's just simply a negative thing that feeds off of negativity to create more negativity, and that's it. So while it's sentient, it's not completely sentient. I don't even know how to explain this. It doesn't have a soul. And so, it can't amend its ways. It can't be like the vampires in Twilight and just drink animal blood instead of human blood. Like, it doesn't have the ability to do that. It doesn't have the ability to want to do that. Okay? So, it's more like a Nosferatu, where it simply wants to feed and it doesn't care about anything else other than that. Okay. So, and I didn't write any notes for this vid, which is why I'm all rambly. So if you're not a witch and you want to start channeling and doing mediumship, the very least you should do is cast a protective circle. Okay? And all that really is envisioning a protective circle around you to protect you. Now, if you're going to really start dealing with a lot of the nasties out there, then you really need to learn at least some really basic witchcraft and start laying out salt circles or red brick dust or herb circles or anything along those lines. Even do it with crystals. Because when you're just doing a thought circle, you're just projecting your aura. Okay? And the stronger I'm strong enough that I can just throw my aura up in a 8-foot circle around me or an 8-foot sphere around me, and there's not a whole lot that's gonna get through. However, when I'm dealing with the big nasties, I don't even want to put out that much energy to keep them from getting near me, so I'll just lay out a salt circle and put some crystals down and let that kind of do the work for me, so that if I'm dealing with something that is masquerading as weaker than I realized, and it turns out to be a much nastier business, then I still have my personal reserves to fight it if need be. Okay? Now, this is much more advanced information. 90% of you aren't going to need to be dealing with that. But I do recommend, if you're going to be doing any kind of channeling, to take protective measures. If you're doing the African Yoruba traditions, they've got built-in protective measures. I don't even need to go there. They know what they're doing. They go through years of training and initiation. They know what they're doing. So if you're doing that, then you're probably laughing at me because you already know what you're doing. You don't need any of this information. But if you're out there and you're playing with all this psychic information and you really don't know what you're doing, the very least you can do is put up a circle, and you can do it with candles, salt, again, salt. The reason why salt is so powerful and iron is so powerful against these entities is because they are not from this realm. They are not from Earth, okay? And they could be from anywhere. I'm not going to speculate as to where they are from, because it's a huge diverse lot and they could be from a multitude of different places, but they are not from here. And salt and iron and earth are specifically from here. And that is going to protect you from anything that is not from here. Just by it because it's going to disrupt its energy, because it's not here, it's not from here. So that's something to keep in mind. Animals, again, will protect you, but you really don't want to use animals as a foot soldier. You know, you kind of want to use them because generally they're loved ones. You know, you don't want to hurt your loved one just to protect you because you're playing with something you shouldn't be, you know. But it's better to be doing these things with animals around than doing them by yourself, okay? If you're doing these kind of things, you should usually have a buddy, another person, whether or not they are necessarily aware of what you're doing isn't necessary, but the mere fact that they are physically in the surrounding area as you, so that if something were to happen, they can call a doctor, because a lot of these things can hurt you. They can give you a heart attack, they can give you a brain aneurysm, they can physically hurt you in a lot of scary ways, and by just having another person, they can run you to the hospital if need be. And I'm talking some serious stuff here. This stuff can happen and does happen. Another thing is if you're possessed, you know, they will cause you to hurt yourself if they're bad, obviously. They won't do that if you're good, but so if there's another person in the vicinity, you know, they can kind of protect you from those kind of things. So, what else? Oh, protection against possession. So the biggest thing that will protect you when it comes to possession is knowing yourself, knowing who you are. If you are the kind of person, and this is mostly common in teenagers because it's just part of being a teenager, because most teenagers don't know who they are, and that's okay, but that's why there's more symptoms of possession and things of that nature in teenagers, because they don't know who they are. So by simply knowing who you are, knowing what your favorite color is, and being confident in who you are, the more connected to who you are as an individual, the more protected you will be, which is why you will find people who are powerful witches or powerful psychics or powerful mediums tend to be really strongly opinionated, very much self-confident in who they are, because that's a natural protection against these things that may hurt you. And so people like this are, you know, most of the most powerful witches and psychics I know are loud, mouthy, obnoxious women that will debate with you, or men, but they'll debate with you, and because they are confident in who they are, and they are very opinionated, and that's a natural defense. If you're somebody who always goes with the flow, always takes kind of the easy way out, it doesn't really stand up for themselves, you're kind of an easy target. And again, that's why most teenagers are much more susceptible than younger children or adults, because teenagers are still trying to figure this out, and they're so worried about fitting in that they would do something that against what they normally would, just so that they don't stand out in a crowd, or that they don't stand out in a negative way. And so that's why teenagers are more susceptible, because they haven't really rooted themselves in who they are and their personality. Okay. I personally do not allow good possession. I channel, but I do not allow myself to be possessed. Excuse you. My cat was just kind of making out with me. I do not allow myself to be completely possessed. I will not allow someone else to be in the driver's seat. What I will do is allow them to come sit in the passenger seat and talk to me while I'm driving. So I will allow them inside me, and we can carry on a conversation in the car together. Please see the first video if you don't, the earlier video if you don't understand what I'm talking about here about the car. But I will allow them to sit beside me, and we can, talk to each other that way. But I will not allow them to take over the driver's seat. There is not a single entity that I will allow to do that. I have had many offers from good ones and bad ones, and it's simply something that I specifically am not comfortable with. With as much knowledge and information I have, that should tell you something. Okay? I don't allow good possession at all, which is why, although I've done some surface study of the African Yoruba traditions, I probably will never get very far with it because I refuse to be possessed. So that's something that is a personal decision, and to each their own. But I do that because I don't trust them. I just don't trust them. Even the ones that have earned my trust and that are my good friends, I don't trust them, because even the best ones, even the nicest ones, even the most well-meaning ones out there still have an agenda of some kind, or they wouldn't be talking to you. Okay? I've covered some pretty crazy stuff tonight, so if you have any questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to message me. I don't know, I might screen the comments on this video because this is pretty far out there. This is probably the most far out there that I've been on this subject matter publicly ever. So, I wonder if I'm going to lose some friends over this. We'll see. If I do, then I guess they weren't friends in the first place. So, alrighty. Comment down below. Subscribe. This is kind of the most out there stuff. I have other information that I would love to talk about. Again, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, let me know. If you have any topics that you would like me to discuss, I would be happy to do so and happy to discuss them. I pretty much am the student of almost every genre of occult, new age, or witchcraft out there to some degree. Some on a very, very surface level. Some I've delved much deeper into. I'm really a master of none because I like the variety, and I can't stick with the same topic long enough to become a master of it, because I start learning about, section B, and then all of a sudden I want to jump to section A, and I don't get all the way through. So, alrighty, thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.